Good evening. Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started on time right now, since you guys are all here on time. So we'll make it happen. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the year that is not like any other. So with that, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to kind of go through on terms of the slides and presentation. You can kind of see it there. Going to talk a little bit about the Health Check app. We sent that out this afternoon, kind of to give you the update on that one. And then hand it over to Cherie Morell at the end, who is, of course, the new principal here at the elementary and middle school, and she will talk to you for a little bit. So why don't we go ahead and open with prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, you are the Creator. You knit us together in our mother's womb. We praise you for we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And even though we face so many issues with this COVID-19, we know that you are there, that you hold us in your hand, you guide us, and we just thank you and praise you for that. And just pray that you would be with us through this year, that you would give us wisdom in all that we do, perseverance, and love for one another. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. I always like to start off with the mission statement at the beginning of the school year because just to kind of remember, why are we here? And with that, the mission of Grace Christian School is to assist Christian parents. So we are here to assist you. We come alongside you and help you in terms of providing a sound academic education, which we do a good job with that. But most important is not just a good sound academic education, but the Christ-centered environment. Because our goal through all of this is to raise up your children so that they know God and they love God. And so with this academic environment that we have and putting the biblical worldview in there, and with it, and the way I like to think about biblical worldview is some people like to use the word integrate. And I don't really like that word because that kind of implies that you're doing this with knowledge. But that's not really the way it works. The biblical worldview flows out of our teachers into your children. And so then they're surrounded in an environment that is not only academically sound, but has that biblical worldview all through and around everything that they're learning. And of course, why do we want to do that? So that they'll know God and live in obedience to His will for their lives. So that is why we are here. We're partnering with you. And as a parent, we have to realize that God holds us responsible for raising up our children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And so as each of us as individuals need to find the avenue for doing that, and again, that's why we are here. And we're glad that you're here, and we're glad that you're here this year. So that's what we're all about and why we are all here. So love one another. This, right now in our society, it's a time where if you don't agree with me, I'm going to call you names, you say you're hateful, and consider you my enemy. Well, within this room here, we have lots of different opinions on things. But what we have to remember is that Christ called us to love one another. In John 13, Jesus said, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." And for the middle school students and the high school students, this is the way I started off the year with them, was talking about this. But this applies to us just as much. It's so easy to fall into worldly ways where we start attacking and nitpicking other people. But we have to remember that we are to love one another, and that's how the rest of the world out there is going to recognize us. because we are loving one another through our differences. So that's what we need to do. And then in Ephesians, Paul writes, I, therefore, prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And I think that kind of just wraps it all up, that we need to be united together, even with our differences in opinion, and just love on one another. And honestly, this is a time where we're going to need to do that, because this is hard. This is going to be a hard year. There's going to be so many little things that can frustrate us, and COVID just amplifies everything. So with that, I beg for you to remember, as I need to remember, as our students need to remember, to love one another. Because we're in a year unlike any other. And we've gone into this year as a faculty and staff, honestly thinking and saying, okay, this is our year. Now, if something happens and it gets better, then that'll be celebration and joy on our part, and probably all of ours here. But we have planned this out for the year. And it is, of course, the COVID challenge. With the training, just so you know, all our faculty and staff, we've had formal training by a medical professional who trained our faculty and staff in everything that they need to know. We have also we talked to the high school and middle school students, and the teachers are talking to your elementary students in terms of little things to do, washing your hands and doing things like that. We are cleaning and disinfecting. I mean, in the elementary school, I'd have to say we probably don't have to do anything different than what we've ever done, because if you don't know an elementary teacher, they're germaphobes, okay? And there's a reason for that. When I was an elementary principal, my first year, I was sick as a dog. I was sick all the time. And then I learned, I started taking immune boosters and washing my hands all the time. And it was amazing what a difference that made. But your teachers are like that. The changes really have had to come at the middle and high school, because in between each class, the teachers are wiping everything down, which then sometimes take a little longer to get to class. But we're adjusting and dealing with that. Masks, of course, you know that, as long as our kids are sitting in their seats, we allow them to take the masks off, but other than that, they're pretty much on the masks are on. If they're moving in the hallways, going to their locker, going to the bathroom, or even in the class moving around, we're asking them to wear their masks. And there, of course, is the expectation there. Students 4th through 8th are expected to. Younger kids are just encouraged to. So that's a family decision at that point. And looking at it in terms of let me step back and say, one of our issues right now is if you're looking at the newspaper, you're only getting thin slices of the truth, okay? Because I've done enough research out there looking and reading and talking with medical professionals, and most of the time they're giving you a little truth, but what they're not telling you is all around, and they're leaving it out because they want to get fear wrapped up in all of us. And so there's everything that we've done, we've carefully looked at and gone in that direction for a particular reason. And it has to do really with science, real science, and studies and what they've shown. So once sitting at a desk, student can remove. We are, this mask we've given out to the high school and middle school, and I'm not sure if we've gotten our masks in yet, but we are not yet. We're waiting on our masks that we're going to have actually and give each child one from elementary. Now, the ones smaller are probably going to be ears. So we also have one of these to go around their neck, and we're going to give these out. So that way, if they come to school with a Spider-Man mask, they're not going to come home with Dora the Explorer. Okay, so, what we'll do is we'll have them strap it on their mask, and then if they drop their mask, they've still got their mask, not somebody else's. So We're going to give those out. They do have the emergency pull-apart brake things, so, to keep them from getting choked. Okay, risk mitigation. That's really when we talk about safety, what it is we have to measure everything in terms of risk. How much risk is this? Higher risk, lower risk? Is the risk worth what the gain is in everything? And that, again, that's what we've done through everything. We are putting in, I'm not sure if they're all in yet, but HEPA filters, which will, help cleanse the air. We're encouraging teachers to open windows, and all those things have shown to help improve the air. Right now, we have on order, and the problem is every school in the country has ordered these too, but we're getting water bottle fillers instead of the little germ factory water fountains, where little ones seem to like sucking or licking them. So we're going to take those out. We're actually going to put 2 water bottle fillers in the elementary, 1 in the middle school, 1 in the high school, and 1 in the activity center. The Health Check app. I hope all of you have downloaded it. If you haven't, then Laura Doty should be around, and she can help you in terms of making sure that gets loaded up properly. When you come in the mornings, we're going to ask, driving up, show us your green screen so we know it. If it's a yellow screen, we're actually going to ask you to pull off a little bit and cover that. But before I do that, one of the reasons that we have to do things differently this year is because COVID can look like something that we've had on a regular basis. So you can see that all of those are the ones on the left is what some of the symptoms of COVID. And the problem is, especially for children, you can have some of those and not all of those. Very few people get all of them. But what do they look like? They look like strep throat, common cold, flu, asthma, and season allergies. It can look like that, but not be it. It could actually be COVID. So that's why we have to be extra cautious this year. And in terms of when we get through a lot of times it was like, oh, you just got a sore throat, go to school. Well, we can't do that this year. In fact, this should be one of the healthiest years we've ever had at school because you got anything, and we're asking, keep them at home. In fact, that's what's going to happen because they need to be symptom-free for 24 hours if it's just one thing even, okay? And I'll come back to that as we walk through this. Now, I know some of you in the way back are looking at that and going, you can't read it, so I'll read it to you up here. This is the daily daily decision tree that all of us, including me, have to go through. So, we enter in right here, and you come down in and you put your information in the app. You get the green screen, go to school, good day. Okay, yellow screen. And I'm going to give you the example of myself. Saturday and Sunday, I had a sore throat. And I get those occasionally. And usually they hang around for 2 or 3 days and they go away. Well, it hung around for 2 days and went away. And so with that though, okay, Saturday and Sunday, so I come to Monday, enter it, and one of the questions is, do you have a sore throat? Yes. And as soon as I answer yes, I'm not getting a green screen, I'm getting a yellow screen. So then, coming in here, have you taken a COVID test? Now we put that in there in particular because if you've taken a COVID test and you don't know the results, that says stay home. If you have a positive from your COVID test, that says really stay home. Okay? 14 days, stay home. And these numbers all come from the CDC and VDH, Virginia Department of Health. Okay, if you got a negative result, we come down and we ask the next question. Have you been exposed to COVID, and that's directly exposed to COVID within the last 14 days? And if the answer is yes, go home. And that's kind of the situation we had at the high school. We have certain students that were exposed to a student who had COVID, and we told all of those people through contact tracing, we know who they are, they're quarantined for 14 days. Okay, so if the answer to that is no, so for me personally, when I came down here, I said, no, I haven't had a test. Have I been exposed? No, I was not around the child who had COVID, so no. Have I been symptom-free for 24 hours? On Monday, the answer was no. So I can't come to work on Monday. Now, Tuesday comes around, today. Was I symptom-free for 24 hours? Yes, so I can come to work today, okay? Again, this is hard because we all know how often our kids get little things like this, but this is where we're going to have to step up and just say, this year is going to be hard and different from any other, okay? And right there, 100.4, so if you have 100.4 temperature, you should be staying home. Okay? And then the other part, again, is symptom-free without medicine for 24 hours. If you're symptom-free without medicine for 24 hours and you have less than 100.4, okay, and no symptoms, like I said, for 24 hours, then you're good. If you end up with that dreaded red screen there, that means you have several different things, because you can answer 2 questions and have a yellow screen. Or if you have 100.4. If you have 100.4, you need to be staying home anyway. But if you answer 3 of those symptoms, then you're going to get a red screen also. And at that point, we ask you to go see your physician, and then you have your choices. Your physician could look and give you, recognize and say, you're cleared if you don't have these, for 24 hours, but you have some symptoms at that point. When you don't have your symptoms, then you can come back. So it's a physician who's making the call at that point. Okay? We can answer any questions, or Mandy Wells knows this well. If you have any questions, you can talk with her. Of course, I'm now in trouble with Mandy Wells. Okay, so yellow screen questions, and this is if you get a yellow screen in the morning when you drive up and you show us a yellow screen, these are the questions, which is just basically what I walked through, that we're going to ask you. Have you taken a COVID test in the last 14 days? Have you been directly exposed to COVID in the last 14 days, which is defined as within 6 feet for 15 minutes? Okay. Do you have 100.4 or greater temperature? Have you had any symptoms of an illness in the last 24 hours? And have you taken any medication to lower your temperature? And if you answer all of those, no, you can come to school. Because in the questions, it does say, have you had a sore throat, for me, in the last 14 days? So for 14 days, I'm going to have a yellow screen. But I can answer all those questions no, so I can be in school. Okay? Now, definitions. And this is one of the things that's hard at this point, because everybody has different opinions. These come, and what I'm telling you comes straight from the CDC and are accepted, around by most people. Primary, or we'll call it primary, or direct contact, again, is within 6 feet for 15 minutes, and that's with a mask or without a mask, okay? So that's what is defined as direct contact or primary. Secondary contact would mean, okay, so I'm going to use Kristen Lyhos for an example here. Her eldest daughter, Audrey, was one of the ones who was within the other student for within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. So Audrey is quarantined for 14 days. Now, Joe and Sam and even Kristen, they're not quarantined because they were not in direct contact. They are secondary, and secondary does not require quarantine. And this is the reason why. They've narrowed it down. You're symptomatic 2 days before you show your symptoms. So you're very contagious. You're contagious 2 days before you show your symptoms. If you go back, and it usually takes, they say, 8 to 14 days to get to that place right there. So by the time one person shows symptoms, so let's say Audrey starts showing symptoms, then her whole family is now primary, or direct contact, and they are going to be quarantined at that point. So does that make sense to everybody? So secondary contact does not require quarantine, only direct or primary contact. I will say, if you lose your taste or smell, even though you could get, if you have that, that's one of the telltale signs. So I'd say if you have that, please go see the doctor and get tested for that one. Or your child has lost taste and smell. That's kind of the signature one. Now, you can still have COVID and not have that, but generally if you have that, you're probably highly suspect about it. Okay? So with that since I brought you all this cheery news this year, and like I said, this is a year like no other, and it's been a tough year for, I'd say, all of us in administration and the faculty and staff in trying to prepare and get ready for this year. And a part of that getting ready has been Sheree Morrell, who is the new elementary middle school principal. So I will introduce you to her, and she can get you going in the right direction.
Welcome. So glad you're all here, and mostly I'm really glad your kids are here. So you got a taste of the temperature taking, the question asking. Settle in. This is the roadmap, like Dr. Larson explained, but I'm so thankful that we have a roadmap because we are, one of the few schools that are meeting in person, and we are so thankful that God has allowed that. Yeah! It was super sweet. I was listening to the prayer group in first grade. They were praying amongst themselves. And out of the 7 kids that prayed, 3 of them said, "God, thank you that I can come to school. Keep my school open, please, God." It was so precious. I am not having any behavioral issues right now because they're so glad that they're here, which that's the way we want it. It's just so fun. They're happy. We're happy. Lord, keep us going. Keep us going. I do want to thank you for adjusting how you arrive at school. We've had to change things a little bit for arrival and dismissal. Excuse me. We're having you turn at Allegheny and then take another left, at Lancaster, and then another one at North Fork. Excuse me. Of all times I need water. But if we're lining up on that side street, that really does help us keep everything moving. So thank you. I know it's a little inconvenient, but thank you. I didn't have a cough, I promise. I want to introduce you to Dr. Nan Schmidt. She can wave at you in the background. She is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction and also our administrator of our CARE program. So if you have any academic question whatsoever, Dr. Schmidt is the one to go to. So we're excited that she's a part of our team and really helps take our whole program to the next level. 2 people that aren't here that I wanted to introduce you to. One is Julie Yeomans. Many of you may know her, but she has taken a new role in the middle school as Dean of Students. She's an awesome, awesome lady, and she's doing a fantastic job. If you have a middle schooler, they're going to want to get to know Julie Yeomans if they don't already. And if she were here, her word to you would be this. Think of middle school as the middle person. It's the middleman between elementary and high school. And thank you. And the goal is that we want to prepare our middle schoolers to be able to do high school. Thank you very much. So her word to me was, please let parents know this is a time to let go of your kids. This is a time in middle school to let them learn independently. Even if that means they fail a little bit on the way. This is all just part of them taking responsibility for their own academic experience and success as well. So if Julie were here, that's what she would tell you. The last person I would want to introduce you to is Frank Cars. Coach Cars could not be here tonight as well, and his word to you was very short and brief. Please check the Warrior Weekly for all your sports forms. All right, Dr. Larson explained how the app is working, so thank you again for your patience with that. I think we're going to get faster as time goes by.